Okay, we're ready to open the continued public hearing for the flexible subdivision special permit at 99 Concord Road. And let me just clarify something before we get started. Are you proposing to start this evening by looking at the density determination plan and then moving this evening into a discussion of the flexible subdivision plan? Is that your intention, or are you just going to focus only on the density determination?
I would hope we get by the density plan fairly quickly and then move on to price.
Good. Okay, so we're going to talk about both.
Yeah.
All right, so that's fine. It's published as one meeting. It's actually two. It's two hearings. So just to clarify, the first hearing is for the density determination plan. That's the one that I'm opening now.
All right, you can tell me when to shut up if I get to reflect.
I will. Okay, I will.
Okay.
We never tell you when to shut up.
Okay. Can I reposition this for you? I think John is actually going to have he's going to have the 4 exhibits on board. I have a little bit of color on it, but I think John's
Which do you want?
number 1, John, which was the existing conditions. There you go.
This is beautiful. Yes, we can actually all see it.
Everybody remembers.
Okay, so this is 99 Concord Road, which is at the corner of Concord and Marion Street, right where Concord Street veers off to the west, and Marion Street continues on to the north. It's a property that has approximately 5 acres of total land, nearly 650 feet of frontage along Concord Road and Marion Street. No wetlands per se on site. There are a little bit of wetlands off site, so just a little bit of buffer zone that extends on. There's an existing single-family home on the property. Driveway comes in on the southerly side of the frontage on Concord Street. And I've added a little bit of color to this plan compared to what John has on the board, just to point out a couple of things. The first is that the pinkish line here just kind of depicts what's open around the existing house in terms of, I won't say it's lawn, but it's not trees. It hasn't been maintained real well in a while, but this is fairly open in here. And the other prominent feature I would point out on the site plan is right in this area, basically opposite where Concord Road veers off to the west. There's a very prominent ledge knoll, wooded. The topography goes up quite a bit there. It's a significant feature. And I would say nearly all along the frontage on Concord Road and Marion Street, with the exception of with a little bit of the existing houses, it's pretty heavily wooded. So there's quite a bit of forest. And the rest of the site is lightly wooded, second generation forest. Not a jungle, but there's quite a bit of mature trees. On the northerly boundary, we've got the Weston Forest and Trail going through there, which I think is a significant existing site feature. And there's stone wall basically along the entire street frontage, with the exception of three cuts in it. One for the driveway here, and then there's a curb cut here and a curb cut here. Other than that, there's a wall right on through there. So I would consider those significant features since it's a scenic road. Both streets are scenic.
Rob, just for the sake of the television audience, could you just
Bear?
point out the cleared area, the knoll, the forest and trail easement, and the openings in the stone walls?
Okay, so this is kind of the cleared area around the existing house. This is that prominent ledge knoll that I speak of. There's really stone wall all along this frontage along Concord and Marion Street. And then there's 3 curb cuts. There's a curb cut here for the existing driveway, a curb cut up in this area, and then near this northern edge of the boundary, there's a 3rd
curb cut.
Forest and Trail?
And the Forest and Trail is going right along the northerly boundary of our property. There's a stone wall here that's the property line.
Do you know why those two northern curb cuts are there? They used to be a...
I think this probably used to be farmed at one point in time, and so they're old farmers' cuts in the wall. So, the first plan that I'm putting up, and go to the next slide, John. That one there. This is what we call, in our planning parlance, a density proof plan. And the intention of this plan is to show what it would take to develop the property if all zoning regulations and subdivision rules and regulations were adhered to the letter of the regulations. This features a 260-foot cul-de-sac that's coming in directly opposite Concord Road. And it divides the property into 3 conforming lots for this zoning district, which is residential A. It requires 60,000-foot lots. And for the purposes of a density proof determination, they require 250 feet of frontage, although the standard zoning is 250 feet of frontage. 200 for density proof, was 250 under what would be, say, an A&R plan. What the density proof plan shows is it is feasible to construct 3 lots, but what happens, and I'll borrow John's pointer one more time, is right through here where that ledge knoll is, requires a cut in order to construct the road grades at the proper elevation of about 10 to 12 feet, probably mostly through rock. And the other thing that happens is where that road comes in order to meet what's called the rounding requirements for curb radii, as well as the clearing, you end up clearing about 100 feet of stone wall and trees right along the frontage. So that would basically be the impact of the subdivision road. You'd have a standard 28-foot wide road with a sidewalk, a pretty wide clearing area where all the grading's required, all the trees would be cleared. And we have a fairly large footprint for a drainage system behind the cul-de-sac. So there would be a fair amount of clearing and earthwork associated with just the road construction itself, and not necessarily getting into what would happen in the construction of the individual lots. The 3 lots, though, they do all contain the requisite 60,000 square feet of area, the required 200 feet of frontage, both at the street line and at the setback line. They meet what's called the zoning quadrangle in the zoning bylaw, which is a formula to show that the lots are not exceptionally irregular. All the septic systems fall within the quadrangle, and the houses fall within the quadrangle. So in my opinion, this is a functional plan that does meet all the requirements under the zoning bylaw and the subdivision regulations. I think the one waiver we would be looking for this particular plan would be a dead-end street, 260 feet long, which my experience in the past, and I guess I've been doing this for longer than I care to remember in Weston, but coming up on 25 years now, I think. The planning board has generally granted that waiver on a fairly routine basis. I wouldn't say all the time, but fairly commonly. So that's the density proof presentation.
Could you just take a minute and go through the rationale for not needing to get a waiver for the offset?
Well, the new street is coming right opposite Concord Road. Typically, there's a requirement for a 250-foot offset from streets that are located either adjacent to or opposite the street. In my opinion on the way Concord Road and Marion Street plays out, that's really one continuous street, so it's not like an intersection. In my opinion, we don't need a waiver from the Marion Street intersection, and we line up directly opposite the Concord Road intersection at that turn, so I don't think we need the waiver. And there's a stop sign on the northerly side there where Marion Street meets Concord Road.
Yeah, but, you know, the question is the waiver question. Okay. Dave Conway, have you had a chance to take a look at the plan? What's your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of build off of what Rob said, I mean, if you look at it, it looks like an intersection. I mean, that's, I guess I never even really thought, because of the 100 times I drive down the street, only one time will I continue on Concord Road. I always go up Marion. So I always think it's
One continued. Yeah, the only thing that makes it like a different is that the street changes name.
It's, when
Yes.
you come from Concord and take, like when we come from Burchard playing baseball, then you come to a stop and you have to take a left on Miriam. It is an intersection. It's sometimes a question of who goes, because I have a new driver in the family, like, who goes, they have a stop sign, we have the right of way, go. It is kind of a
Yeah.
tricky little spot. When you're coming from town and go on Miriam or go on Concord, that's fine, but you have to put your blinker on so that people know what you're going. But when you're coming down Concord, it's a kind of a hairpinny weird left.
Or if you're coming down Miriam going south, you
Yeah,
have
it's
to
an
stop,
intersection.
you could turn right, or you turn left.
Right, but I just want to reiterate that what this is a paper plan. This isn't what they're proposing to do.
Right.
So the only discussion is whether this requires a waiver from the planning board or not, if we accept it. Not whether it's actually going to be, anybody's ever going to negotiate
yeah.
that.
Or if it's a good idea.
Yeah, okay. So we can, we'll think about that. Anything else, Dave?
No, I mean, it's very basic. I mean, it's, you know, the roadway is not particularly large, the drainage is not particularly large. You know, I didn't do the math, but you could probably even carve out the drainage onto a separate lot, and the other lots would still be viable. You would just steal a little space for each one,
Yeah.
and they'd still be work. I mean, the lots are very regular. What's a rectangle?
Okay,
I mean, it's not gerrymandered by really any stretch.
all right. Board members, any comments? No? Anybody else from the audience, any comments? Yes, identify yourself, please.
Bob Wilson, 120 Concord Road. Just curious, could you say again, what was the purpose of presenting this?
We're gonna be proposing now a 3-house subdivision. And if we accept this as the density, this establishes how many houses they can build by zoning on this parcel. The next plan will show how to develop the parcel in a more sensitive way, so that you don't wind up with a giant lollipop in the middle of the land and all the rest of it. So this just proves that they can build 3 houses on this parcel without having to go to the planning board, essentially. There's some, that's basically the
Okay.
proof.
But they do need a waiver for this.
They need the waiver for the dead end road, yeah.
And maybe for the outside.
And maybe from the outset, but, you know, so the question is whether the plan that they're proposing is compelling enough to justify the, in the interest of the town, the granting of the waiver. So, that's the background. Any other comments? Yes.
Christopher Scott, 90 Concord Road. I'll make 2 points that I raised in an August 28th letter that I sent to the board, a copy to the board. Number 1 is I do not believe that Northland is the owner of these parcels, and therefore I do not believe that Northland has standing to pursue subdivision. Second, I believe that they are pursuing this for an ulterior motive, namely to increase the appraised value of the lot for purposes of a Chapter 40B development. Separate and apart from that, the plan that I see on the screen there, I find a few issues with it. Number 1 is the safety of the intersection that's being proposed with the new proposed road. Number 2, the cut of the driveway requires significant alteration in the landscape on the lot for 99 Concord. And number 3, there are drainage issues and flooding issues in that area. and the proposed roadway would exacerbate any possible flooding and drainage issues.
You realize this is just a theoretical exercise.
I do, but I'm just
All right.
preserving my rights. Preserving my rights.
Just out of curiosity, if they prove that they can build two zoning, why would the flexible subdivision plan make it have any impact on the appraised value of the property?
This plan might not be approved by the board
Why not? If it conforms with zoning, we don't.
because of the waiver.
Well,
Because of the waiver.
we could choose not to grant the waivers, but that, it remains to be seen whether we would do that or not. Let's assume that we grant the waivers, or the waiver, then what difference is there? In terms of the assessed value of the property?
Because it proves that the lot can be subdivided into 3 lots, and therefore it can be appraised at a higher value for purposes of accounting.
Right, so if we
You've got
grant the
covered that.
waiver, they don't have to actually go through the flexible subdivision process.
Now, maybe we could somewhat short circuit that discussion if Jack could speak to A, his authority to represent the property, and B, his intentions relative to any 40B application.
That would be helpful.
This is Jack Dowling, he's the president of Northland.
Good evening. Thank you, Rob. I have standing in the property that I have a bona fide purchase and sale agreement with the owner of the property that is in full force and effect. And that is the manner in which I have pursued entitlements on properties for longer than I care to remember, and have done multiple times in Weston. So I do not believe that that is a legitimate concern. Relative to my pursuit of a 40B and that I am going through this process to somehow scheme the process to increase the appraised value. First of all, I have an appraisal that Mass Housing commissioned for the property. The appraisal came through at a value greater than I'm paying for the property. So I'm indifferent, I guess, from that perspective. The genesis of my being here tonight is very simple. We proposed a 24-unit 40B project for this property that the town and specifically the neighbors didn't care for a number of reasons. Density, clearing, traffic, drainage, etc. Nonetheless, I did get and receive from Mass Housing a certificate of project eligibility that would enable me to advance the 40B application. I've worked with Rob for 25 years in Weston and other towns around here, and Rob and I were working on another piece of property back in the late winter, or late December, early January, and we got talking about this, and the conversation ensued to why don't we see if we can prove out a density plan that would support a 3-lot subdivision under the flexible zoning bylaw. I've utilized the flexible zoning bylaw in other instances here. In fact, I'm proud to say that my firm was instrumental in working with the town and the town planner at the time, and Rob, to write that bylaw. So we made the decision in early December to take a hard look at a conventional subdivision that would that would migrate to a flexible planning tool. Flexible planning tool simply allows you to utilize the land in the manner in which a proof plan would allow, but by relaxing some of the dimensional requirements such that you had less impact on the land, number one, and that you preserve some of the attributes of the land that were important to the planning board and to the community. That's why we're here. I can tell you with a straight face, Mass Housing asked us what our intention was. We had a conversation with them on Monday of this week. We told them that we were pursuing a flexible subdivision of the plan and that we had a hearing, our first public hearing with the planning board on Wednesday night. They asked us to maintain that and keep them informed of where we stand, and it would be my intention to abandon the 40B plan if I felt that we could come up with an appropriate, rational, and reasoned use of the property that met the sentiments of the planning board and the butters and the neighborhood residents that have been here before.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, then in that case, we will, I think we'll continue this hearing until what date, John?
October 7th.
October 7th? All right. What time?
$9.
9 o'clock, all right. Good. Just